This mock draft is brought to you by the NFL Mock Draft Database, as we already said. If you haven't tried out this mock draft simulator, I think it's one of the best in the game. You go through, you choose your team, you get to even see player blurbs as you're going to draft them. I think that's one of my favorite situations, my favorite thing that they have added on, the favorite feature that they have in this simulator. Not a lot of simulators have that. I don't think anyone else really has that. They also have great, consensus big board. I go there all the time just to check out where these guys are kind of ranked on a big board to see how I feel about them. I don't, hold it as my Bible necessarily. I don't stick to it all that well, but it just gives me a good idea what other people are feeling. Just kind of gives me the gauge on what's going on. I think the simulator might be one of the best features at all. And also, I was running through here. You can redraft other drafts too. That's one of my favorite features. Just to kind of, if you're bored and you want to mess around, just go redraft the 2017 drafts. Go redraft the 2018 draft. Try to do better than Brett Veach did there, and try to do better than Brett Veach did in 2018, 2019. It's a fun little thing to do, and it's something that I've really enjoyed recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, not to bash on Brett Veach because I think people have been doing that enough. But if you go
Mhm.
back and you can't do better than he did in 2018, then we need to step up the mock draft game. I think that there's a lot of good talent there, and not necessarily even trading up, just going back. It's always a fun feature to have. And man, the I guess it's the little line graph that
Oh
tracks
yeah.
the player's average consensus ranking. I love it. I think you can clearly tell, like Richard LeCount at Georgia, you can tell he has fallen a ton from where he used to be. Paris Ford at Pitt, he's fallen a lot, especially after his pro day. That's going to go down even further. Like these guys, Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater, his line went just freaking going up
Yeah.
week after week after week. So you can tell different guys where they're kind of going to be in the future before or after their pro day and stuff like that. So Denny has a ton of cool stuff on his website that's definitely worth checking out, and follow him on Twitter as well.
Right. Definitely follow them on Twitter. I think when we go into this mock draft, this is I've got a good feeling about this one. We've got a lot of people sending in the hashtag RTKMocks. We got like Kyle Pitts falling all the way down there. There's some crazy guys falling. I think we had Parsons fall to us last week.
Yep.
We're gonna kind of disregard those guys that fall all the way down to 31, just because we want the realistic factor to this. So to make it more realistic, let's talk about our scenario today with the Chiefs signing Russell Okung. This is now, they haven't done that. I don't want you to be listening to this podcast or video and say, oh, the Chiefs saw Russell Okung. Where did they do that? They didn't. This is a fantasy land that we're going in. We're trying to look into our crystal ball here, and we see, okay, Russell Okung, Melvin Ingram, sign both of those guys. What do the Chiefs do next? That's what we're going to do here. That's what we're going to showcase you today. So we're on the NFL Mock Draft Database Simulator, drafting as the Chiefs, 2021 draft, rounds 7 all the way there. The Chiefs have a, what is it? One, two, three, two fours, two fives, and a six. When it
Yep.
comes to the draft, that was off the dome, man. That was good. We're gonna be doing normal speed. When I like to do these myself, I do the fast speed just so I can fly through them because I'm not a very patient person, I guess.
Yep.
And realistic recommended setting and the strict trading. We don't like to do a whole lot of trades here. I think one of these mock draft days we're going to do some trades. Just when we get closer to the draft, kind of when we're getting a little antsy to what's going to happen, we'll throw some fun stuff out there. So, here we are, Jordan. We're going to be at pick 31. What are you thinking here? The Chiefs assigned a left tackle. They don't have a center, but they've got an edge. What's your thoughts?
Man, I think if a guy like Jalen Phillips falls all the way to 31, you still take him, even though you signed a defensive end in Melvin Ingram. I think tackle is still definitely an option at 31, where maybe you can take a Sam Cosmi or someone who may not necessarily be ready that first year, sit him behind Russell Okung, play him later. You can also take a Creed Humphrey if he's still available, since you haven't got a center. And we've talked about maybe going with a center scenario next week, and that would kind of shape our board. But in this one, I think everything is still on the board.
We've got a pretty decent board that shaped up for us as you were talking. I was kind of watching it all fall. I'll give us some prospects that went just before at 30 at Rondale Moore, who had a really good pro day. The dude was
Yeah.
actually working out in his underwear too, which I thought was a little uncomfortable. I don't know if you noticed that. He was like in just
Mhm.
compression shorts. That makes
Yeah.
that's I know we're probably already going to get off base with this conversation, but guys going and running 40s like in their skimpies and then like saying, "Oh yeah, I ran a 4.2." I don't like that. Then you have some guys running in like t-shirt and shorts. So like I think I like that with the combine is it's all kind of regulated and everything. I don't know what you think about that, Jordan.
I was gonna insert a Chris Jones joke, but I'm definitely not gonna do it.
Fair enough. I don't even think you have to insert it for people to know where
they
you were
they have
going
to
with
know.
that one.
Yep.
Yep, they've got to know. So Rondale Moore at 30, Jalen Mayfield at 29 to the Packers. Greg Newsome, a guy that wouldn't be too upset with if he fell all the way to the Chiefs at that 31 pick, especially in this scenario with the Chiefs already having a tackle and an edge. Uh, Greg Newsome is a guy that I think that could fit well with the Chiefs at 28. Jalen Phillips, 27 to the Ravens. Christian Barmore at 26 to the Browns. Tevin Jenkins, man, at 25, that dude keeps climbing up the boards
Yep.
too. He's going to go early. Najee Harris at 24, holy cow, to the Steelers. Azeez Ojulari at 23 to the Jets. Rashad Bateman at 21 to the Colts. I think that's probably all of interest. We had
Yeah, I want to
Christian
hear the good
Darrisaw.
stuff.
Yeah, Christian Darrisaw at 17, Elijah Vera Tucker at 16, Rashawn Slater at 14. Nothing that we expect really out of the ordinary. So who's on the board? I'm sure you're asking that, Jordan. I'm sure everyone at home is okay. Okay, well, you told us who's gone. Who's on the board? Zaven Collins is there. We've already had a whole spiel, whole podcast about Zaven Collins, about linebackers at 31. Even with the Chiefs signing a tackle and setting an edge, I don't think linebacker is the way to go. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't even, I guess, unless a Micah Parsons fell all the way to
Right.
31,
Yeah.
I just don't see it. Like, I guess you can justify it like a Clyde pick where you were making a future pick or you like the value or whatever you're going to do, but I just don't like it. I'm not a fan of a linebacker at 31.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Samuel Cosme is also there. Tested really well out of Texas, offensive tackle, 29 on their big board, and I think would be a good value pick for the Chiefs right there, especially because we were already talking about tackle. Who else
Mm-hmm.
is there? Trevon Moehrig Woodard at 30, Travis Etienne 32. From Clemson, the running back. I don't anticipate another running back to be picked in the first round. Jason Owe, Terrence Marshall. Owe is from Penn State, and he's the edge. Terrence Marshall, LSU wide receiver. Wyatt Davis, inside interior lineman from Ohio State. Nick Bolton, linebacker from Missouri. Joseph Osai also there as well with Alex Leatherwood, Asante Samuel Jr., Creed Humphrey, Levi Onwuzurike, Carlos Basham, Liam Eichenberg. There's a lot of guys there. I was
Yeah.
what I'm getting to is there's the board is good. I think at 31 you're going to get probably a solid contributor. So Jordan, what are you thinking after hearing all those names?
I'm thinking it's either going to be Cosme, it's going to be Humphrey, or it's going to be Osai. And Osai is undersized. That's the thing that worries me. He's not a traditional Spags defensive end in terms of size. He's the guy that could really thrive as a 3-4 outside linebacker, I think. So I've kind of cooled on him. I think the talent is phenomenal. He's going to be a good NFL player. I just don't know. He's not like severely undersized, but I think he's like hovering around that 250 mark, and that's not great. Like an Ojulari is what, 240? That would be
Right.
completely out of left field despite his immense talent. So I think it's either going to really be Humphrey or Cosme, unless you're just banging the table for Joseph Osai.
No, I'm not there yet. I could see Trevon Moehrig maybe, but it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be definitely interesting too with the Chiefs already signing Dan Sorensen. With that already happening, I don't really see uh, the high pick in safety because we haven't seen Brett Veach invest a
Yeah.
lot in the secondary. I don't think that that's very likely as well. Cosme is my first reaction.
Mm-hmm.
There has not been a mock draft where we don't take a lineman, an offensive lineman in round one. And I
Yeah.
don't think we're going to do that this week. I think that we're probably going to take an offensive lineman again. Cosme seems like a good pick. If he falls all the way to the Chiefs, it's one of those things where the dude tested really well. He looks good. I think that he could be a good fit. I wouldn't really necessarily feel comfortable with him starting necessarily day one, but in our scenario that we have here, the Chiefs have already signed a left tackle in Russell Okung. I'd be fine with drafting Cosme, maybe letting him sit a year, Patrick Mahomes it a little bit, then come in and to protect Patrick Mahomes. I think that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that if we didn't have the Chiefs taking a left tackle in free agency, getting one in Russell Okung, I'd really be kind of pounding the table for Liam Eichenberg again. I think that
Yeah.
he's one of the few left tackles that I'm comfortable with starting week one. Cosme, not really. I think the athleticism is really good. The potential is great. He needs to sit for a little bit. He's not quite NFL ready. Still a first round talent because he could be really good. It's either him or Humphrey. And I think you can still get some value on the interior of the offensive line later in
Mm-hmm.
the draft. Or if you have to default to Nick Allegretti to center, which I think I'm not counting on that personally, but I guess it is a distant option. It's a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen, but if worst comes to worst, they would have an option there to make. So I think Cosme, man, you can't build your draft 1 year at a time. Like you have to have a
Mhm.
little bit of foresight. And Russell Okung, if we sign him in this scenario for the Chiefs, he's only going to be there for a year most likely. So I think replacing him with an NFL ready Samuel Cosme in 2022 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. Let's just go ahead and do it. Samuel Cosme at 31. That's a good pick. As you mentioned, Jordan, I mean, that's a foresight pick. That's a guy that's going to build, that's a guy to build your offensive line around, too. And you got Joe Tooney coming in for, I can't remember how long his deal, what deal was, 5 years,
Think of
right?
5. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have him and then Cosme. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, it's definitely really good. I think that, man, Cosme has all the tools. I just don't know
Right.
how long it's going to take him to put them together. And like if he had to start week 1 for a team, I think he might be able to handle it, but I don't want to derail his development as a team just because he may not be ready. So if you can get him at the end of that first round, develop him for a year, I think that'd be a good pick.
Yeah, and I like too that you're pairing him with Andy Heck, and I've talked
Yeah.
about Andy Heck a lot on this podcast. I think he's the best offensive line coach in the National Football League. I mean, Andy Reid was an offensive line coach too. So I mean, that's
Mhm.
probably the best scenario for a young offensive lineman who needs to develop and needs to gain some potential to go into. So we're looking at pick number 63 now. Had some guys go off the board just before the pick. Dylan Moses is a guy that we could have looked at there at linebacker. Patrick Jones at 61. Dang. That's too bad. Richie Grant at 58, Joe Tryon at 56. That's a lot of edge guys here. So with 63, since the Chiefs haven't re-signed a wide receiver, haven't signed a wide receiver, I should say, at 63, they haven't done that. They haven't re-signed Sammy Watkins. They haven't went out to free agency and got one. Are you looking for kind of a wide receiver two type option here?
Yeah, I think like a Diami Brown and Amonra St. Brown, those are both options.
Yeah.
You can look at a center, you can look at an edge, you can look at a linebacker, you can look at a safety, you can look at a corner, you can do a bunch of stuff at 63. But I think, man, if there's a good wide receiving option, like a premier tier 2 or tier 3 target, I think that's where you go.
Here's something also interesting. We haven't talked about Quinn Miners a whole lot. I don't think Jordan and we have on the podcast, but I know you and I personally have talked about Quinn Miners a
Yes.
lot. Um, uh, it, he's soaring up draft boards. He had a good pro day. Didn't have a 2020 season with his Wisconsin Whitewater. Division 3 football didn't happen. Division 2 football didn't happen. So now you're looking at a guy who didn't have a 2020 season. Hard to find film on him if you're not an NFL coach, I assume. He
Mhm.
went and trained with Duke Manyweather, which people really like. He's really kind of turned Alex Leatherwood into someone who's a top tier athletic tackle, as we got to see on Tuesday. He tested very well. I believe he was a 9.86 on the RAS score, the realistic athletics to, I can't remember what the S stands for, but it's an assessment maybe, I don't know. But it's a statistic kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It puts a
It's
number
like a
to,
scale. Yeah.
right, yes. It quantitates qualitative things, if that makes sense.
Wow, that
Um,
was impressive.
some good words right there, wasn't it? Some
Substitute teaching skills right there.
I know those are some $10 words. So when we look at the interior offensive line, could we possibly go Quinn Miners here? Because Quinn Miners is getting a lot of top 60 buzz. At 63, Quinn Miners still on the board here. Would you hate that as kind of a position here? But when we look at the receivers on the board, maybe you will. I don't know.
I'm gonna be honest, Tucker. I wouldn't hate it. Like it takes a lot for me to hate anything. I would
Right.
dislike it. Like I like Quinn Miners. I think he's going to be a good NFL player. I don't think he's a top 60 pick. And I know guys like Dane Brugler, who I have a great deal of respect for, great at what he does. He's tapped into the NFL. He knows how these teams feel about him. So maybe they know and they have the tape to see. There's nothing I've seen that screams second round pick to me, top 60 pick. There's not a lot out on him. You're relying on a good Senior Bowl, no 2020 season. I just don't think so. I think maybe a third round pick I'd be okay with, but at 63, I think that'd be a pretty big reach, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And you look here, I don't think Trey Smith, I'm just looking at the interior board. I don't think Trey
Mhm.
Smith was a center. Josh Myers was a center. Deontay Brown was a guard. Quinn Miners a center. Ben Cleveland a guard. So you're kind of running thin on centers right here. Let me look back at the board and see where Our two guys went Landon Dickerson at 50 to the Dolphins,
Mhm.
Creed Humphrey at 46 to the Patriots. Holy cow! How many centers do they need? They're gonna take David Andrew and they're gonna take Creed Humphreys. That's not fair. Okay, sorry. But at 63, then you're looking at there. You think, okay, maybe I want to see if Quinn Miners can fall around that third round range. That's where personally I like him too.
Yep.
Jordan and I kind of have the same thought process on this of if he goes top 60, a team is probably going to overspend on him. But I do like him as a lineman. I like him, I do like what he's shown so far in the public eye. There's not a whole lot out there like we've been saying, but the recipe is there for the Chiefs to kind of
Yep.
overspend on him because he's a Senior Bowl guy who the Chiefs like. He's a small school guy who the Chiefs like. The recipe is there. So I would not shock me at all if the Chiefs went 63 Quinn Miners. That would not shock me. Would not be surprised. I guess I shouldn't be using the word shock with what Josh had to go through last year. But uh, let's look at the wide receivers because Amonra St. Brown is there. That's who we took last week in our mock draft 6.0. Tylan Wallace also there. We haven't talked about him until probably mock draft 1.0. I really like him. Dwayne Eskridge, another guy there. Diami Brown also still there. There's some people that think Diami Brown's one of the best receivers in the draft. And so, what are your thoughts on this wide receiver board as it stands?
I like it a lot. Where is Diami ranking on that board these days?
82, which
Ah,
I will
man.
say, I will say, is a jump from where he was. He was in the
Yeah.
mid 150s, and now he's up to 82. The dude's climbing. I don't know when his pro day is or if he's already had his pro day, but once again, that could affect his stock as well. I maybe the talent's there for Diamond to be a second round pick. That wouldn't again surprise me at all if he went in the second round. But I really think with Amonra and with Tylen on the board, you can't go to Diami, if that makes sense.
I might take Diami here.
Really?
I I think he has the ceiling. I think he has a higher ceiling than now. I'd probably feel more confident in Tylan Wallace, especially in the
Mm.
Chiefs system. Um, but it's a toss up for me. I think I'm not going to take St. Brown just because we already took him last week and I want to switch it up a little bit. But man, I'm probably going to lean Tylan just a little bit because I think he could offer more year one impact,
Yeah.
I think, than Diami. There's more security there. But long term, I think Diami is, I call him dynamic Diami because that dude just makes plays. He's dynamic after the catch. But Tylan Wallace, he's just a reliable receiver. Like,
Mhm.
he's, I think we should go Tylan. I've talked myself out of it. I like Diami a lot. I wouldn't be upset with him at 63, but I'm sold on Tylan Wallace. I'm fine with it.
All right. I mean, you just gave yourself the argument I was going to do for Tylen, so it's all good. We're taking Tylen Wallace right there at 63. I like that pick right there. Tylen also has a lot of experience in motion, jet sweep motion, with the Oklahoma State
Yep.
offense, and I think that'll come in handy as well with Andy Reid's offense. Handy Andy, right there. So now looking at pick 95, I think we kind of have to start looking at interior line here. That's just my first judgment right away.
Yeah, I think here really for me anything goes, but interior line, I think with one of these third or fourth round picks, one of them at least has to be an interior lineman.
Well, the interior was kind of ramsacked when it comes to centers because Josh Myers not there.
Hmm.
Also, Quinn Miners went at 87 just before 95 to the Chiefs. Josh Myers went at 81 to the Raiders, who the Raiders in this mock draft went Chaz and Josh Myers right back to back,
Huh.
which interesting pick selection right there. So looking at the interior offensive line now, you really want someone to play center, and I don't know if any of these guys play center. Jack Anderson did all the way at 205. But do you really want a guy in the sixth round to play center for you right away?
Mm-mm.
It gets a little sketchy there. It gets a little sketchy indeed. Um, that we did not put ourselves in a great situation here. I will say that.
Yeah. Should we just look at the board in general now?
Yeah,
I
let's
mean,
just
this is rough in
yeah.
terms of interior offensive line. I mean, in general, there's still plenty of great value, but in
Hmm.
terms of your interior lineman, that's not looking great.
Jay Tufili, the defensive lineman from USC, is there. Tufele, I'm pretty sure is how it's pronounced
Yep.
after I said that. Michael Carter, running back from UNC. Marvin Wilson, another interior defensive lineman from Florida State. Tutu Atwell, wide receiver from Louisville. Jalen Twyman from Pittsburgh,
Pitt.
defensive
Yep.
lineman as well. Tyler Shelvin, defensive lineman from LSU. Brady Christensen, offensive tackle, BYU.
Mm.
Maybe double tackle it. Really bulk up that depth. I don't hate that.
I don't hate that idea. And I mean, if you eventually moved Lucas Niang to right guard, or I guess Christensen could play guard. That's
He
always an
could. He
option.
could.
I honestly don't
Yeah.
hate that because I remember talking to Ben Criddle and he said, a guy that watches way more BYU than I did, Christensen might be a guard. And I think that he's a guy who, if you needed him to play in a year, he'd be ready. I think he has a
Right.
high floor and a low ceiling. So maybe we could have a de facto left, or I guess right guard situation figured out long term. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
hate the Brady Christensen pick. I feel like we'd catch some backlash for that when people see 2 tackles in the first 3 rounds. But frankly, I don't care if we get backlash. We're going to get it either way. So Christensen's definitely one that I like. Um, should we take a look at the linebacker board? I
Yeah, I was
guess.
actually just there. Karen McGrone, linebacker from Michigan. Pete Werner, Derek Barnes from Purdue. And Pete Werner's from Ohio State. Um, Tony Fields
Mm,
from West Virginia. So you kind of get a little further down. I mean, McCrone is on their big board at 102. Then all the men Warner's at 118. So there's a little bit of a drop off right there. I don't know a whole lot about McGrone, but I only know as much about Pete Warner as you've told me and watched a little bit
hear
of. But I,
hear
I,
me
I like
out.
Pete. Go ahead.
Where's
Go for it.
Tommy Tremble sitting on the board? I
Tommy's
know
at
he's in the hundreds.
126. I wouldn't hate this pick right here. He's not
I
going to be around at 137. I'll tell you that.
I might be fine with going offense here. I'd be fine with
Mhm.
Tommy Tremble. I think he'd be a perfect long-term solution at tight end too. He offers way more upside and athleticism than a Nick Kaiser or a Blake Bell. I'm fine with Tommy Tremble at 95.
And I've had this conversation too. I think that Blake Bell is a high tight end 3. So if
Yeah.
you can get Blake Bell as tight end 3, Tommy Tremble's tight end 2. Chef's kiss. I think that is good. I like the pick right here. I'm ready to lock it in if you are.
Just wrote it down on my sheets. Let's go ahead and do it.
All right, fine. We have to then, since Jordan wrote it down on the sheet. Tommy Tremble, 3 offensive players. So I don't know if we've done. I'll have to go back and check the numbers. I don't know if we've done that before. If we went 3 straight offensive players, so we got to be thinking defense now, right? Is that the next move at 137?
I think more than likely we're going to have to go defense with probably these next 2 picks at least.
Yeah. So are you thinking secondary? You thinking linebacker? What are you thinking here, Jordan?
I'm thinking we look at the edge board just to see if anyone jumps out. And then after that, really anything goes on that defensive front.
Yeah, I'm with you right here as we roll up to 137. We do have Jordan Smith on the board. He's a guy that you scouted early. We're kind of high
Mm-hmm.
on. Cameron Sample from Tulane. Joshua Kando, is that how you say his name? Kando?
Mm-hmm.
That looks like how you say it. Shaka Tony from Penn State. Ellerson Smith, who had a really good pro day as well at UNI. He's there. And then Adi Ogundiji is also there, who I think we're going to have to sneak into this mock draft at 145. I think that's where we're going to have to take Adi there because Chiefs only have a few picks laid off right here. So I think if Adi's there, I kind of want to take him at that position.
Hear me out. Do we go double edge with Ellerson Smith and Oguniji?
Double-edged sword, baby.
Let's do it. Double edged sword. I'm here for it.
I'm with that because it's a position of need for the Chiefs. Yeah, they do sign Melvin Ingram. They're going to need somebody for the long term, and they're also going to need depth because they lost 2 pieces. Yeah, they re-signed Taco Charlton. Yeah, they signed Melvin Ingram in our scenario here, but it needs to be better. And it also needs to be younger. It needs to have more depth. So let's go Ellerson Smith here at 137. And we're just going to wait a little bit right here. Watch the picks kind of tick off the board here until we get to 145. I don't think that Adi's going to be gone. And we're going to take Adi Ogundiji here. Jordan, I know I'm a very, really big advocate for Addy, just because his versatility. Spags
Yeah.
loves versatility. I love that he can play inside and outside. He's got the frame. He's a little. What we looked it up the other day. I can't remember. He's like an inch shorter and like a few pounds lighter, like 2 or 3 pounds lighter than Dalen Hayes, our most selected guy. So both of these guys are very similar. And you say you think Addy's got a higher ceiling.
Yeah, he does for sure. I think that he has really good power to his game.
Yep.
He plays a lot stronger than his frame suggests, and I like Ellerson Smith as well. I think that they both are guys that Smith has a really high ceiling. I think that he can kind of be molded into whatever you want him to be as an edge rusher, and then Ogundiji I like a lot. So it's kind of ironic that we signed a defensive end to the Chiefs in this scenario and then went and drafted them back to back. But I think a guy like Ogundiji could fill that Tershawn Horton role down the line, where on third down you could kick him inside and just let him kind of do some work. Ellerson Smith, just kind of a ball of clay that you can mold into a really impressive player. So I don't hate it. I think that now you probably go linebacker or secondary with this next pick, depending on what that board looks like.
And I think this kind of reflects well on how Brett Veach actually approaches the draft, because he doesn't go secondary high in the first rounds. We've seen that he likes to go undrafted or low round guys. I mean, L'Jarius was a fourth round pick last year, and that was the highest he drafted, I think, secondary player. So let's look at the cornerbacks: Trey Brown, Tay Gowan, two guys that have tested really well, have looked pretty good, who I like. Jamar Johnson, Tyree Gillespie is also there. Gillespie is there. We didn't take him last week. Have we ever taken him?
No, not
I don't
yet.
think so
Not that
either.
I know of.
And really, that'd be a good four safety, three safety type hybrid type thing.
I
He's a
I
good box
mean,
safety.
we're exercising some foresight with this draft. I mean, I think that next year he could take over and be a box safety. So I'm fine with it, dude.
Yeah, we are exercising
Let's
hella
lock it in.
foresight. Should I look elsewhere before we just lock in? That kind of feels like a rash decision here. I
I
mean,
guess. Yeah.
um,
Just in
I,
case.
well, I really think Jack Anderson will be there at 182 if we wanted to grab a
Yeah.
center for long term. I think Jack Anderson would be a good one. He's also working with Duke Manyweather, so maybe we wait for him on there. David Moore is also there, 202. He could also be there as well. I know Andy Heck has said this before, that he takes pride and he can teach anyone how to snap.
Mhm.
He can turn anyone into a center, is what he thinks. I think who was it? Jeff Allen.
Yeah.
Was tweeting about how he thought that center was actually the easiest position on the offensive line to play from the physicality standpoint.
Mhm.
Um, so we could wait. I think we should wait on these guys to kind of pick them at 182, 208 type, ending the draft picks, because I think that they both could be solid contributors. I don't know about tackle again. There's not really. Cole Van Lanen is really the only one that really sticks out to me on the tackle board. Wide receiver. We already got one wide receiver, but there are some solid guys there. Tamarion Terry is still there. Josh Matter, Bebe, Simi Fayoko, who tested well at his pro day as well. So I mean, there's some players there. But do you still like the Gillespie pick here?
I do. And then I think that you take David Moore at would it be 182? I think you go back to back,
182,
and
yeah.
this is shaping out to be a pretty damn good draft.
Yeah, I'm with it. Tyree Gillespie right here from Mizzou. As Jordan mentioned, good box safety. I think he would be good as a depth guy. And also when we talk about these drafting two edges back to back, I know that teams don't like to double dip. I think this is a good situation too, because people are going to say, "Oh, what about Tim Ward?" Okay, well, if Tim Ward doesn't play well, you can cut him out of camp. Right. There's situations like this where these guys are going to be young. They're going to have, lower end contracts for cap. It's going to be nice for what the Chiefs are wanting to do moving forward, with Patrick Mahomes still kind of in the young part of his deal. You want some young guys not to take up as much cap. And the same thing goes for Gillespie right here.
Yeah, I think he makes a really good box safety. And then David Moore, I think, could develop into a starting caliber offensive lineman. It's a surprise that he's at 182. I think that he will end up rising up this consensus board. So I like really the way these last two picks have shaped out, and then really the draft as a whole so far.
Well, David Moore went at 180, so I think we're going to go with Jack Anderson.
Oh,
Yeah, that's too bad.
oh man.
That hurts, doesn't it?
That's a bummer. I had him written. I don't have any space left on my sheet. I'm working with a small box here, Tucker.
Oh no, you're gonna need to invest in some whiteout, I guess. I've got the
Oh
whiteout
man.
little strips, but Jack Anderson is who I'm gonna pick here instead. He can play center too, is what I like about Jack Anderson. working with Duke. So, are you good with the Jack Anderson pick? I should ask before I do it.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with it. I'm
Okay.
just bummed out about David Moore.
Yeah, me too. I like David Moore. I like him a lot. And I mean, there's also Kendrick Green there. I don't know if you like which one you like better
I
from
like
Illinois.
Kendrick Green.
I do like Kendrick Green as
I'd go
well.
Kendrick Green, but that's okay. I'm fine with Jack Anderson.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it more right now. If I want Kendrick Green or we could. Okay, I'm going
I think
Jack
Kendrick
Anderson.
Green has more of like a nasty mean streak, which the Chiefs have kind of been missing on the inside of the offensive line.
Yeah,
I think that he has a higher ceiling, but I'm perfectly fine with either of them.
yeah. I went with Jack Anderson right there. We can always get Kendrick Green in next week's mock draft when we have another whole other scenario. And looking at the board here at 208, thankfully the Chiefs got picked 208. This is the official draft order, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that before because we were scraping the bottom of the barrel when it came to 259 last week. And there are some good guys on the board. Oh, man. How did he fall all the way here, Jordan? Josh Amatter
Who is
Bebe.
oh man.
All the way to
You got to.
208. Oh,
You
I
got
think
to.
I have to. But
Yeah.
before we do it, Tay Gowans there, cornerback from UCF. Ambry Thomas, cornerback from Michigan. Cameron Bynum, Cal, cornerback. Rashad Wild Goose the second all name guy. That is an all name team
Oh
candidate
yeah.
right there from Wisconsin. Lots of cornerbacks up here on this board still available, as well as Dalen Hayes, Jonathan Cooper, Simi Fayoko, Bryce Thompson, Frank Darby, Trey Norwood. I'm just shouting out names that I recognize.
Bryce
But
Thompson's an interesting one.
Bryce Thompson would be an interesting one. I know you like that guy a lot.
Yeah, he has that versatility to play a lot of different roles in the secondary. He has some off the field stuff that is a little bit worrisome, but I think, man, if any team can handle that, it's the Chiefs and kind of get
Yeah.
these guys to keep their heads on straight and work hard and kind of keep their heads down. But I think Josh Bebe, dude, with his athletic kind of traits and his potential as a whole, out of Illinois, I think you got to go with him at 208.
Don't have to tell me twice. That is my draft crush. For some reason, it started all the way back when did you look at him? You look at him early in your
It was a
100
while
100
ago.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I
we were
read about
early
him
on
and
him.
I was like, wow, this guy's good. Did a little bit more research, stalked him on Instagram, all that good stuff. And I thought, this guy's it right here. This guy's got the physical makeup to do something in the NFL. And I think he has a potential to be a really good X wide receiver because he's like we said, he's not like great at one thing specifically. He's just good at a lot of things.
Yeah, and then if everything worked out perfectly, we have a guy in Tyler Wallace who can kind of
Yep.
move around the field a little bit and do a little bit of everything. I don't know if he's a full-time slot, but he has a lot of stuff, traits and usage at Oklahoma State that makes him an interesting candidate for that. Because Joshua Bebe, that dude's an X. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
what he's going to do at the NFL. I think if everything pans out. So, man, I like how this draft turned out. I'm not sure it was quite the banger of last week's draft, but this is a pretty good one.
It's a really good draft when it comes to foresight and planning for the future. I don't think that sometimes we get into the conversation. I know Jordan and I talked, and you're Jordan. I know Connor and I talked about this yesterday of people saying, "Well, the Chiefs still have the draft to address some of their needs, some of their question marks." And I don't think that we can get into that place of expecting rookies to come in right away and be star
Yeah.
contributors for a Super Bowl caliber team. We shouldn't get into that mindset. So I think using the draft here to kind of bulk up what the Chiefs need, because if you look at their roster right now, it's pretty top heavy. It's really thin and it's top heavy. So
Yeah.
getting these guys like Samuel Cosme, like Tommy Trimble, like Ellerson Smith, Adi Ogundiji, Tyree Gillespie, Jack Anderson, getting all these guys to come in and be really good depth pieces right away, I think is almost the perfect way to approach this draft. I know we kind of start out off this draft, thinking, oh, let's get somebody who's going to play right away. I don't think we can do that anymore. I think we got to kind of look
Mhm.
at this and say, all right, well, let's get some depth. Let's bulk up where we need to bulk up.
Yeah, and I think that we found some players in Ellerson Smith who could play a good role in a rotation. We got
Yeah.
Tommy Tremble, who's a good tight end too. Tylan Wallace should start week one. Um, there's good value here. Samuel Cosme is going to
Oh
be a
yeah.
year two stud, hopefully. Tyree Gillespie will take over for Dan Sorensen, so you don't have to look for a free agent at safety. Ogundeji's going to work into the rotation at some point. Josh Bebe, high ceiling. I mean, we got a lot of different value in different places in this draft. And like you said, you can't put all your eggs in one basket. And this is one of those where if the Chiefs drafted this set of players at the end of the year, they'd look back and say, well, this rookie class didn't do a whole lot. But I think that's the problem with these draft classes is sometimes you have to wait a couple years and see
Yep.
what needs pop up. And then that value fills other value. And that's what makes a good draft class.
Yeah, I think that this has a potential. The potential is through the roof with this draft class. That's all you can ask for, right? I mean, we're basically taking a bunch of lottery tickets and hoping a few of them pan out. And the Chiefs are going to need
Yep.
a few of them to pan out, especially in the coming years with Patrick Mahomes' contract, with everyone else trying to keep the band together as best as they can. I really like this draft. I really like how it shaped up when in terms of of just the depth for everything and giving us
Yep.
a situation. I think giving us what the Chiefs have already done, kind of going into the draft, helped us a little bit better to kind of dictate what we want to use the picks for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I think this is pretty solid.
Yeah. So Jordan, I appreciate you joining me on this mock draft 7.0. Shout out to whoever suggested us do little themes and kind of give us little situation simulations. You don't get any other input like that if unless you don't fill out the listener survey. Filling out the listener survey, that's how I saw that idea. And I couldn't appreciate and thank it more. So make sure you guys are going and filling out that listener survey. We want to hear from you. I think it's really cool to see, when you guys listen, how you guys listen to the podcast, just to kind of, so we can kind of cater the podcast to what the bulk of you guys like, because I don't want to do something you guys don't like, right? That's not the goal of this podcast. I want to hear what you guys have to think, and I want to say what you guys want to hear. Well, not necessarily say what you guys want to hear me say, but I want to talk about what you guys want to hear talk about. And you don't get to change who I am. I'm no puppet. I'm
You're
no
a man of the
corporate.
people, Tucker.
Right. I'm a man of the people, but I'm not a puppet. So we're doing the best that we can here. We really appreciate everyone who's already filled out that listener survey. The response we've already gotten is it surpassed my goal of responses right
Yep.
away that I thought that we were going to get. But onwards and upwards, and thanks you guys again for 500 YouTube subscribers. That is awesome. We started the YouTube page I think in October. That was after we started the reboot of the podcast. So and how many months is that? Not even 6 months, I don't think. We've gotten over 500 subscribers on our YouTube page, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's really a testament to the awesome people we have tuning
Yeah.
in via Twitter, kind of interacting with us via Apple Podcasts, via Spotify. If you listen on Spotify, all the different platforms on YouTube, it's truly awesome, and thank you to anyone who tunes in.
So a few things before I let you guys go. One, you got to fill out the listener survey. Two, make sure you're going to the mock draft database and you're doing your simulations, tweeting them at us, hashtag RTKMock, at Footnoted, at Tucker D. Franklin. Those are our Twitter handles. We want to see them. We'll be talking about them next week. I believe this week is a mailbag week. So next week, we'll be talking about Roughing the Kicker mock drafts. Make sure you're heading there, doing those. If you want to redraft some drafts too, I'd love to see those. If you want to join the Discord as well, that's also in the thread on my pinned tweet. Over there, you can find the listener survey. The Discord link is also in there. You can, man, that's been popping off, man. We've been having great conversations in there leading up to free agency. Sometimes news breaks in there before I see it on Twitter. It's on top of it. I've really enjoyed having that Discord together. It's been awesome. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go make sure to like it, subscribe, get the notification bell on so you don't miss a post. We post every single day, sometimes twice a day. Sometimes I feel a little wacky, feel a little silly. I post 2 YouTube videos in a day. So you're not going to want to miss those. We did that the other day with Mark and there because we just had such a great conversation. I wanted to put a lot of content up on there. And that's what we did. I might post 2 videos from the mock draft. You never know. So make sure you stay tuned into the YouTube page. And also, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Cast, any of your platforms, make sure you go give us a subscribe, follow us so you don't miss an episode. Leave a good rating for us. That always helps us. A 5-star rating and review helps us climb up those iTunes charts, so we get noticed, so we get picked up, so other people can listen to the podcast. And if you know other Chiefs fans, be a friend and tell a friend. That's what Pat McAfee always likes to say at the end of his show. Be a friend, tell a friend about Roughing the Kicker. We really do enjoy you guys spreading the word. There's been a lot of people on the listener survey said they heard from a friend about Roughing the Kicker, and that means a whole lot to hear that you guys are spreading the word about Roughing the Kicker. And Jordan, I've talked a really long time right here. I'm winding down. So do you have any final thoughts before I let you go?
I was waiting on you to ask me, and I was going to say that was one of the best outros you've done. So I'm just going to leave it at that.